Good morning, RWorld, and welcome back to RWorldTalk. I am super excited this week, as usual, but this week I have the pleasure of introducing you all to Senator Alexis Calatayud. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So we had, just last week, we did All Things Realtor Party, told you guys exactly what RPAC and the Realtor Party does for our industry and our advocacy efforts. So I thought that it was fitting that after having Matthew Ledger on the podcast last week, that this week we're going to bring a live example with the senator, and we're going to talk about basically the tie between the realtor community and our advocacy efforts and what we do to help you in Tallahassee and what you're doing to help us realtors as well. So one of the things that you have championed for all realtors is the Live Local Act. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your involvement in getting that passed?
I was privileged, really honored to be the sponsor of the Live Local Act in the legislature and the Senate. So our partner in the House was Representative Demi Busada Cabrera. Together, we worked under the Senate President's vision to put together a comprehensive constellation of policies that are market-driven and focused on increasing the supply of affordable, safe, attainable rental housing stock and creating a pathway through affordability to greater home ownership for more in our community.
Right. And it's the Live Local Act has been such an amazing success. I know now it's been dubbed Hometown Heroes 2.0 is what all the lenders are calling it for sure. But I had just heard that we've used up now $54 million out of the funds that were available, which is, I mean, imagine how many homeowners that has helped. It's just absolutely incredible.
It's incredible.
It is incredible. So to Live Local Act, it's been expanded into another massive win for the state of Florida, obviously, spinning off that Hometown Heroes program that I just mentioned. But why is this a win for Floridians and for realtors as well?
Starting with Floridians, we know we're in a housing crisis, and
Big time.
particularly an affordability housing crisis. The amount of homes, apartment units that we have compared to all of our young people trying to start families, all of our returnees from other schools across the country, from around the world, and all of the folks who've realized Florida is the best place to live, and particularly some of our big cities, some of our urban cores.
Absolutely.
That's where they want to be. Not only is that where they want to be, that's where they want to move their businesses. When we have all these constellation of factors together with the response that Florida had during the COVID pandemic of keeping business going, opening doors, and getting life back to normal, this massive shift has dynamically changed what's possible and affordable for families.
Right.
Families are realizing more and more that they're going to have to save for a very long period of time while they're experiencing, instead of a 30% of their household income going to their rent, 45, 50, 55.
Right.
We see this at the person-to-person level, at the business level. The Florida business community, from the Florida Chamber of Commerce to chambers of commerces across the state, their number one or number two priority this year was workforce housing.
That's what's been on everybody's mind.
Big businesses, small businesses, they have the same challenge of recruiting talent or retaining talent. People are making decisions between their quality of life with a very challenging affordability issue versus moving somewhere else,
right,
where rents are cheaper, where housing is cheaper. And so Live Local came in a moment where we knew that families needed this, individuals needed this, employers needed this, and realtors can leverage all of these opportunities, these pathways of affordability to home ownership that we've created. The Hometown Heroes is that special cherry on top, where now that we've changed the eligibility requirements from occupational-based eligibility to income-based eligibility, we're opening the door for people across the spectrum of Florida's workforce to be able to take a step closer to home ownership.
And with the Live Local Act, you no longer have to be one of our hometown heroes, per se. Now, you could be self-employed. You could be a realtor, and you can tap into Hometown Heroes 2.0 because of what you've done with the Live Local Act. You know, right before the pandemic started, we heard that there were 900 people a day moving to Florida. Post-pandemic, Now we're looking at 1,053 people per day, and half of them are coming right down here to our area in South Florida.
Right.
So it's incredible. One thing that you just hit on is you think about people who have graduated from universities across the country. Their families are here in Florida. They come home, and guess what? There's 1,053 people a day moving here. The affordability is absolutely off the charts. So we have these people who want to be home. They want to come and work here. They want to live close to their families, and they just can't afford to buy anything. And you sometimes simply just can't afford to rent anything. So what you have done, honestly, has just made waves across the state, and it has helped us as realtors, help the families that we serve so much more. It's incredible. So thank you so much for all that.
It's a joy to hear that.
Okay. Well, like we said, $54 million already taken out of this program. Helping those people get into homes is just absolutely incredible. We're changing lives. So let's discuss the Realtor members' role when it comes to advocacy and how we differentiate from other groups across the state.
I think what realtors do, I think in advocacy better than almost any group, is the relationship building that I have with realtors in my community. When I was running for office, I canvassed, similar to how realtors canvass. I've come to learn. And
you had your farm area?
I knocked on 9,000 doors in 6 months.
Wow.
And the group of constituents of mine that I remember having the most striking conversations with were the realtors that opened their doors and talked to me when I knocked on them. And the conversations we had were so involved. They understood the issues. My number one question is, what's important to you and your family? They were able to articulate what the issues were for realtors, what the issues were for future home buyers, and what they counted on me. We did talk about affordability. We did talk about property insurance. We did talk about condo issues. They were prepared to have conversations with elected officials. And I think one of the most important pieces of the advocacy that I've seen, especially from realtors, is when they build relationships in our local communities and they come up to Tallahassee and leverage those.
Right.
The relationships you build is what advocacy is made out of. Coming and giving someone a piece of paper is very nice, but I can get that on the side of the street.
Right.
The relationship that someone has and tells me, I've worked in our community for 20 years. I've worked in our community for 5 years. I see the struggles that the people I work with are experiencing. I'm talking to you from that place. I'm telling you about your people. Realtors across the state of Florida can build those relationships with their elected officials and essentially act as boots on the ground for the issues that are impacting day-to-day people in a way that their legislators can act on.
So are you saying that when we come up to Tallahassee, we're actually making a difference when we have those conversations with you?
Huge. And so
realtors not all of them understand why it is that we take so much time out of our business to come up to Tallahassee and have these conversations. And sometimes the new people, when we bring them up with us, up to Tallahassee for Great American Realtor Days, they walk into the Capitol building and sit down in your office and they've just got ear-to-ear smiles and they cannot believe the change that they're actually making. So I hope that everybody who's listening to this podcast understands that we are making a difference. We're the ones that are talking to the people in the communities the same way that you are. We may hear a different side of the story or hear a different struggle that they're not talking to you about. So it's amazing that we can come and bring that right up to you guys while you're in session, have that conversation with you, and allow you to understand what it is that we're dealing with so that you can affect some real change.
And I think I'd be remiss not to add, the Live Local Act in great part came from multi-year advocacy from realtors.
Awesome.
It's not a magical, I came last session and look at this massive workforce affordable housing package.
Right.
So many components, particularly the Hometown Heroes 2.0. Last year, its first iteration, and this year, its second. That came from multi years of advocacy. Right. And look at what happens when you make consistent investments in building relationships and educating electeds.
Well, I love that the actual level of support has changed and has actually been increased. So now we're looking at 5% of their loan amount, and that goes up to now $35,000 instead of $25,000 with a minimum of $10,000. which is absolutely incredible because it's just getting harder and harder for people to get into homes. So that increase was absolutely necessary, and I really applaud all the work that you've done in order to push that through and make it happen.
Of course. And what we're seeing in some of our South Florida counties, I believe Palm Beach just arrived at an additional $200 million that they're investing in bond for affordable housing.
Right.
Miami-Dade County is offering an additional $35,000 that you can stack on top of Hometown Heroes for the same household income levels.
Amazing. Yeah, I know in Broward County, the house, it's not even a household income. In Broward, the income limit is $144,000 a year. So it's, which you think about somebody who's making $144,000 a year, you're still looking at, a home that you want to be in is going to cost you $700,000. So, we're the kind of money that we're talking about that people are making is still not enough. And the down payment assistance is still helping, all families that really need it. And especially with Live Local, you've got to be working at a Florida company, which again, let's keep people right here working at home, living in the communities that they love, staying with their families, not having to go out of state. It's really awesome what you guys did, and I truly applaud you for it. Let's talk about you recently attended one of our Realtor District conferences. So are we one of your favorite groups? You touched on that, or that we help you with advocacy, but did you have a good time at the district conference?
I had a great time. I met so many really passionate people.
Right.
When we're in Tallahassee and we participate in advocacy days, we have so many opportunities to meet people, but you don't have the time. You don't have an hour or 2 or 3.
Right.
The opportunity to spend a great deal of time, 2 days, with your colleagues in the Southernmost District conference was really, really special. Awesome. I gained so much new insight, particularly to the Monroe County situations, and a better understanding of what folks are experiencing in Miami-Dade County too. I met with a great deal of the incoming leadership from Miami-Dade County, which is very special to my heart. And very important for my constituents. I think all elected officials should have the opportunity to spend a day and a half with a realtors from their area and just let them download what they're experiencing, what they're seeing on the ground. Because we have, one time an election cycle where we spend 6 months, 9,000 doors. Right. But the concentration of conversations that if you have 100 realtors in a room of your local community, it's exponential benefit to your ability to serve correctly and serve to the true needs of people. I think everyone should spend that much time with their local realtors. It was a blessing for me. Did
you get a chance to go to the block party when we were up in Tallahassee for Great American Realtor Days, when we had the big blue bus out there?
I always end up staying too late working in my office. I miss all the good things. But I'll be there this year.
Okay, fantastic. I'll buy you a drink.
Thanks.
Okay, so tell us about some key takeaways from the latest session that we've had from insurance to condo reform. I know that insurance and condo reform are constant moving targets that you guys are working on. So you might not have a lot to share on that, but what is your experience and how can we more effectively communicate our needs on insurance and condo reform with other legislators?
I think it's incredibly important. I spent 2 different sessions, the condo law and on property insurance during the Southernmost Conference, listening to how realtors are having discussions on those 2 topics with the individuals they're serving. And what we've worked on this last legislative session and the 2 previous special sessions on property insurance is to do our best to pivot to 180 degrees move what amounts to an aircraft carrier of decades-long practice in property insurance. We also find ourselves competing in a global marketplace that would very much prefer not to deal with Florida. Right. And the predictably high costs and the predictable unpredictableness of our hurricane seasons, particularly after we had, a 500-year storm and a
1,000-year storm
in the same hurricane season.
I hope we never have to go through that again. I know one day you will, but hopefully it's going to be another 1,000 years before that happens.
We know that these things happen in our state, and more they can happen in our metropolitan areas with an enormous amount of construction, enormous amount of property value.
Right.
So we're doing our best through the 3 legislative tweaks that we've made and the tort reform package of this last legislative session to meaningfully move the ship. And we knew in our first original legislation before I was a senator, at the end of last legislative session, the special session, that these would take 12 to 18 months to see the impact within the market in terms of increasing the amount of insurance companies returning to the state,
right,
offering additional competitive prices, and reducing that competitive price over time, which would help us with our challenge with citizens, knowing that at this point today, we have 1.7 million citizen new members in citizens.
Insureds, right.
Insured citizen. We have to make sure that is a sustainable number, and that is not a sustainable number.
Yeah, we know the state does not want everybody to be on Citizens.
One catastrophic storm in a metropolitan city could wipe out those reserves.
Right.
An Andrew event.
Right. Well, look at what Irma did to downtown Miami. I mean, the streets were completely flooded. It was crazy.
Cars totaled left and right.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that our private market becomes healthy enough to lower the cost, and then we're going to do our best to the lowest cost fashion possible, help members of our community migrate off Citizens. But that's a very delicate balance, and particularly the folks in South Florida understand the majority of those people on Citizens are our neighbors.
Right.
And they're already experiencing, I knew from canvassing, 10, 15, 20% increases year over year in their property insurance costs.
Right.
So we're very delicately understanding the health of the private market matters, lowering cost, but being very gentle with the individuals that currently are on Citizens to make sure that their prices don't go up in an exponential fashion. So it's a very delicate balance for the future health of the property insurance market in Florida. And we also have the additional factors of there's very few reinsurers, and that is a global market in which we're not favored, nor is it possible to achieve a favored position with the unpredictability of our weather and natural disaster challenges. So that's property insurance. And we are deeply engaged on what is the next step, knowing that now is not good enough. This is not good enough for Floridians. They deserve better. And we've had, before I was before I represented my community, we've had a number of missteps. And we have to take accountability for that and change the direction of the ship.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're at the helm and steering that ship properly. Okay, well, I know you are a very busy lady, so I'm going to get to one of my favorite questions. We ask this of everybody who's on the podcast. Tell us about a little Florida gem, a place that you love that we may not know about. It could be a tourist spot. It could be a favorite cafe. It could be a beach spot. Anything that you love about living in South Florida.
One of my favorite spots in South Florida it's in my district. It's in Coconut Grove.
Okay.
It's Monty's, which has been there since the 60s. It's like it's a raw bar.
Okay.
But it's just a great neighborhood bar, and it's on the water, and you can watch kind of the whole world go to sleep there. Okay. And you hear the waves, you hear the breeze, you see boats coming in, and it's a chill neighborhood spot where you could take your grandparents, you could take your mom and dad, you could take your friends. It's one of my favorite spots. I even recommended it to the Senate president when she asked, what's our favorite spot in the district? Okay. And it's because generations of Miamians have gone there since the mid-'60s.
Monty's in Coconut Grove. Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a feeling like I've been there before. Are they known for stone crab, and they've got like a second floor deck that you could sit outside over the water?
I don't think they have a second floor deck.
Okay, so this could be a different place that I went to.
Next time you're in Miami, you just let me know. We'll go to Monty's.
I'm gonna come down to Coconut Grove. I'll give you a call. We'll go to Monty's. I'll buy you a drink. Okay, well, fantastic. Senator Calatayud, thank you so much for joining us on Our World Talk. And we will see all of you hopefully in Tallahassee at Great American Realtor Days, but certainly we'll see you next week right back here on Our World Talk.